It's official. CafeTO is here to stay. City Council voting today to make it permanent here in the city. It was introduced last year as a way to help struggling restaurants stay afloat during the pandemic. They were allowed to use parts of sidewalks or curb lanes of streets to expand their patios.
And while 1,200 establishments have signed on, critics, they're concerned about congestion and parking. Joining us live tonight with reaction is Deputy Mayor and Councillor for Ward 2 Etobicoke Centre, Stephen Holyday, General Manager of La Cubana, Daniella Trozzolo, and Manager of the Roncesvalles Village BIA, Ozman Omar. Thank you all for joining us. Ozman, we'll begin with you tonight. Your BIA has 28 restaurants taking part in the CafeTO program. What's the reaction been like?
Well, we welcome this decision. Restaurants and bars have been some of the hardest hit businesses during the pandemic, so the CafeTO program was well received generally by the businesses, the restaurants, and patrons. So we're glad that a program that was launched to help businesses survive the pandemic will be here to stay. And, we hope this will give them new life and in turn benefit the neighborhood and stimulate the local economy.
Daniella, your restaurant's on the Ossington Strip, a lot of restaurants there, a lot of CafeTO patios as well. What's your reaction to this program being made permanent? What do you think it adds to your strip there?
Well, I think the Ossington Strip is a very vibrant area, and the CafeTO program only added to that vibrancy, really. You know, we're having a beautiful environment that is almost reminiscent of a street in Europe, really. And of course, being in that area and having the CafeTO program, it really saved our business, and I don't think that's too far of a stretch.
Okay, we have to talk about gridlock because it's a real problem in Toronto, right? We all know this. And many have said this is just going to exacerbate the issue. I want to bring in Councillor Holyday. I know you've raised this issue. How do you feel about that concern?
Yeah, I'm so cautious about this program. It was a great program for the first 2 years. It provided relief. But the question is, has the time come to end it? We asked questions at council, and I didn't get very many details back. I asked the general manager of transportation, what's your plan for congestion? The answer back is, well, we're going to monitor it over the next year, and then we'll take it from there. And nobody could really answer how you measure congestion or what that really means or what is too much. It seems to me to be a political decision at the end of the day.
So, Councillor, how then do you respond to people like Daniella from the restaurant industry who say this has been a real game changer?
Oh, I am quite sure that it has been a plus for restaurants, especially during the pandemic. But what restaurant would turn away free extra floor space, free extra tables? And their position is entirely understandable. The question you have to ask is, what is the balance now with the use of that space ongoing? At some point, we'll be able to say this pandemic is behind us, hopefully. And do we need to be able to get people to move around the city? They say congestion has returned to 85%. And we know that people aren't taking public transit like they used to because of many concerns. The question I had is congestion going to be 120% a year from now? And what will it look like 2 and 3 and 4 years from now? And we are talking about making this program permanent. I don't regret the first 2 years of it, but I am worried about the future.
Daniella, how do you respond to what Councillor Holyday is saying? Listen, I've driven up and down that Ossington Strip many times. It was tough pre-pandemic. It's more tough now. There's not a lot of places to park. Has that hampered business at all?
Well, I'm also a driver. I am a downtown resident. I'm often driving to and from each restaurant location, and there's no doubt it's hard to find parking, but what I don't think really many citizens would trade a vibrant, beautiful, thriving city for extra parking. I don't agree with that at all.
You don't agree with that. Okay. Ozman, I want to give you a chance to weigh in here. Do you think this deters people from coming to our city?
Well, no, actually, I think it does the opposite. If you look at other cities that do have, curbside patios even before COVID happened, it adds that little extra flavor to it. And I would also add that while this program is intended to help restaurants and food establishments, it creates much needed exposure to other businesses. For example, if I'm sitting on a patio for an hour and I'm looking next door at some clothing displays, I might visit that business. So the overall benefit, I think, is greater. Like any other program that you start, any new program, there's always going to be challenges, right? And it's up to us and work with the city and CafeTO staff to see how we can make things a little bit easier when it comes to gridlock, when it comes to parking, and so on.
Ozman, let me play devil's advocate here, because when I've been out there in the field covering the story as well, I've heard from retailers who are on a strip where there's CafeTO, and they're saying, I'm getting less business now because no one can come and park in front of my store. And listen, I know the downtown core is a lot of walkers, cyclists as well. They can still access it. But what do you say to those retailers and even to some restaurants who haven't been able to participate in CafeTO because they've got a streetcar stop or a bus stop right in front of their establishment?
Well, I don't know if businesses have been getting less business. That's not what I heard. And if that's the case, I doubt that it has to do with CafeTO. This pandemic has been difficult on many businesses. So, and when it comes to parking space, yes, there is difficulties in finding parking space, but I think there's extra opportunity there as well. Anytime you look at a neighborhood that's filled with patios and cafes, you're going to see a lot more pedestrians walking. And a lot of times, those are the people who are discovering the new businesses. When you're driving from place to place, you'll go from point A, point B. Look, it is hard on drivers. I drive around the city too. Parking is difficult in any big city. I agree with you there. But we have to find that balance. So,
Councillor Holyday, how do you balance supporting businesses, making sure that they have patrons, that they can survive through this pandemic and for many years to come, with also not trying to completely turn off, suburbanites who might be coming downtown to enjoy their Saturday afternoon?
Well, that's just it. It's our city too, and I speak as a person that represents a suburban ward. And what is that balance? I always try to think about these things in a 365-day, 24-hour-a-day cycle. Yes, I'm sure these things are great on a Friday night, a Thursday night, maybe on a weekend, but the cafe installations remain there for 24 hours a day. And it's the rush hour that gets affected, in the morning and in the afternoon. And drivers are sitting there looking at many of these cafes that are empty. Now, obviously, they get used later on. But you're right, the balance is the question. CafeTO is a basket of many things. It's this one particular element, which is the curbside cafes, the ones that take up the traveled lanes, that are the biggest issue. Some of the other expansions on flanking streets, extra sidewalk installations, even stuff going on in the suburbs where they build a cafe in one of the parking lots. These are successful things that I think we should be looking at as a city on a more permanent basis. But it's that traveled lane that is so necessary during our rush hour. I'm not so sure it's a fair trade, and especially for my constituents that need to get into downtown for various reasons, it is very hard to justify it as a fair trade.
Okay, so you're pretty worried about congestion. We hear that. Daniella, very quickly, I just want to ask you, I'm curious, what's the plan in the winter months? How do you make this work?
Well, we survived during the pandemic on a very successful takeout program. And so we also have the ability to have indoor dining now, which in previous years throughout the pandemic, we weren't able to have. So we're very hopeful and looking forward to the future.
Okay. I'll have to leave it there. Councillor Stephen Holyday, Daniella Trozzolo, and Ozman Omar, thank you so much for this conversation. Good luck to all of you.
Thank you.